East Lakers, hey, Robin, I wanted to give you guys something to think about this week. This is our free Sunday, but have you ever wondered why some people seem really generous and other people have such a struggle with being generous with money, time, or even things like forgiveness? It seems like they don't have enough and other people have plenty. Here's a thought for this week. It all starts with the idea of a provider. So if you're with God and you believe He's going to be your provider, that's kind of where it starts from, is like, who is my provider? Now check this out. My provider either can be me, or I can see my provider as God. And that kind of leads to something when it comes to provision, having enough. Because if I'm my provider, then it's always going to be limited. So whether it's the amount of money I have or the amount of time that I have a limited amount. That's why you'll see people continue to save money, and they stock up money, and they keep building a pile bigger and bigger and bigger, and trying to get as much resources they can aside, because they really see the world like it's just them. Like however much they can acquire, however much they can build up. Now, when it comes to God, though, it's a little bit different, because with God, there's an abundance. So when you have God as your provider, and you kind of see Him as your provider, there's an abundance. Now, there's a real problem when I'm my provider, because no matter how much I store up, it's never going to be enough, because prices go up. What if I get sick? Something unexpected happens. Like, no matter how big I make this pile, it's never big enough, because there's fears in the world. There's things that can happen. News comes in. I'm always underneath the idea that I got to get this bigger and bigger and bigger. It can never be enough. But with God, when He is behind it all and He has abundance, there's always enough. Which is a big difference, because when I really start to function and believe, because I have a provider who's God, who has everything in abundance, there's going to always be enough. And if there's always enough, then I can have faith instead of fear. This is what ends up being where I operate out of. If I'm the provider, I'm never going to have enough, because it's always going to be limited, and then I end up having fear. And here's where fear goes. If I have faith or fear, fear is going to be stingy and unwilling to share. And faith is going to allow me to be generous and willing to share. And this is an attitude. Let me talk just for a second as we close. Generosity isn't something that I do. Generosity is something that I am. So when I'm generous because I have a provider who's God and who always has enough, I can have a faith. So a generous person, they always have enough forgiveness. They always have enough mercy. They always have enough money. They always have enough patience, because God is the provider of all those things. But even with my money, and of course this is a big thing, if I'm my provider when it comes to money, it always seems like there's never enough. I'm always afraid I'm not going to have enough for whatever comes upon me. So I have to be stingy, and I'm unwilling to share. And then that leaks into my attitude. My attitude is I don't have enough forgiveness. I don't have enough mercy. I don't have enough patience, because I'm the provider not just of my money. I'm the provider of everything that I need. And it all starts with seeing God as our provider. Here's the idea, and this is what the Bible has to say about it. Kind of an interesting way the Bible backs it up. Let me read it to you. And God will generously provide all that you need. Then you'll always have enough. You'll always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. So that's the idea. If God's the person that's my provider, then you'll always have everything you need and plenty to share with others. So here it is right here, just a recap. I can either be my provider or God can be my provider. When God is my provider, there's an abundance. When I'm provided, there's always limitations. So there's never enough. I'm just stockpiling. But if God's my provider, I always have enough. It leads to faith, so I can be generous. So give us some thought this week. Who's your provider? I hope you can see God as. Have a fantastic week. See ya.